Happy Saturday, Locked On Cavs listeners. Chris Manning here. Got Kevin Stankiewicz, my buddy, filling in. If you're on YouTube, you can see that this is not Evan Dammerel, but that's my buddy Kevin Stankiewicz, who wrote a really good story about e-bikes and is a Cavs fan. Has actually been on this pod a long time ago in different iterations. So yeah, this just feels right. We were on the phone last night talking about Cavs Wolves, which was a very fun game. And we just figured, you know what, let's turn it into a pod. But before we get into today's show, I want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. Today's show is going to be all about Cavs Wolves and all about Cavs Kings, which takes place later tonight at 8 p.m.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by TrueBill. TrueBill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions that you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those that you want to keep. Kevin, Cavs Wolves last night was a ton of fun. We there are like lots of ways to think about this Cavs team, but I just want to ask you, someone who is coming from this like purely from a fan perspective, how fun is this Cavs team on a scale of 1 to 10 for you?
I mean, it's I don't want to say it's a 10 because, like, I mean, it's still not like a championship type run where you really feel that way, but like they're just exceeding expectations. And I had fairly decent expectations, like I've said to you before. I was hoping, like, a best case that they could play like near 500 or, you know, just and be competitive for much of the season. But they're not just competitive, but they're like kicking teams like in the butt all the time on the road. Like, games like last night are exactly the kind of things that's like, they didn't just win the game. They controlled it wire to wire and they were up by 30 again. Like, but that's the fourth time, I think, in a couple weeks that they've had games where they're like 30. Like, that's insanely fun. It's not that they're just like kind of winning a scrappy contest. They're dominating. And I didn't really expect this to be a team where they were dominating opponents. So it's pretty close. Maybe it's like an 8.5. You know?
Yeah. I tend to think that like some of this, like covering this, like it just the team is like there's obviously reasons for this, but this team is not stressed out in the same way that it was like the LeBron era is like a very stressful time. Like everyone is a little like on edge, everyone's a little bit on tilt. Like it is a little bit of a reality, and this team is like doesn't have like they're playing free. They don't have the weight of like the world and LeBron James's legacy and you know, figuring out all this on the fly. The media attention is obviously like very different, which, you know, can and cannot affect these things. Like it's just different. And this team is just like fun. I was like flipping through Twitter this morning and like, I sent you just one of them, Kevin, but like apparently Carl, like they got Karl-Anthony Towns just like very sad after this game last night, cause they just spanked the Wolves. And like, you know, he's talking about like how food doesn't taste good and life doesn't feel the same when they're not winning. And there's a Hanif, the very famous poet, whose name I will butcher if I try to say it because, yeah. But apparently he's a Timberwolves fan. He's had some very funny tweets about the NBA, and he has some tweets about this Wolves thing that are making me cackle a little bit. But like, this team is just like fun in ways that I thought this team would be better, and I there's a story that I worked on. If you see my tweet, you know what it is. But like, it's very funny that this team is just like very fun and very good. And it's just like also like inaccessible in some ways. Like it is a very like 2021, 2022, like kind of thing where it's like this very fun thing is also just like kind of cut off. You know what I mean? Like it is just very bizarre. But like this Cavs team, like they go into Minnesota and they just kind of dominate. They win this game 123 to 106. That score isn't even like illustrative of how close this game was. Won the first quarter 34 to 20. Second quarter won by 7. So they just carry a 21-point lead into the half. I felt like this game was over like very early.
Like it felt over when it was 20-4. It was like,
yeah,
all right.
It was like, all right, well, you know, Cavs getting some light work. Ricky Rubio comes home and just gets the W. Like Taurean Prince, like, you know, plays 11 minutes as the starting small forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and tough stuff there. But the Cavs like I think are good. They just go in and like spank a Wolves team that like is in the play-in hunt in the West. You know, they're under 500, all that stuff, but like the Cavs just kind of went in and like took care of business. So Kevin, the Cavs win all 5 starters in double figures. Love and Osman in double figures as well off the bench. Rubio at 6 and 8. To you, what stands out is kind of like your big look at this game?
Yeah, I think obviously everybody's watching him, looking for him to perform well. I think the way that Okoro was aggressive on offense like early on, and then Markkanen just continuing to be like surprising in all of the like in every way. I think those were kind of the two things. Like obviously Garland had some fantastic plays with his handles, where he just ghosts guys. I mean, it's really fun to watch him get to the rim. But I think for me, it was Okoro getting 31 minutes tonight and 7 of 10 from the field. Like should have looked before, but like I feel like 10 shots is even kind of a lot for him. But he was being aggressive and assertive, and that's like the kind of stuff you hope to see from him. Maybe not every night, but you would like to see this a little bit more often. So I give him a ton of credit. And then Markkanen, as I said to you last night on the phone, was like, he has 8 shots and he has 19 points. Like, I mean, it was really an impressive performance from him too. So I think those are my 2 biggest takeaways in very pleasant ways.
That's probably the best game Isaac Okoro has played all season, right? Like that, like he was confident. Like the offensive stuff is obviously, I think, the headliner here because like he had just some very good offensive moments. Made a 3. I thought his shot looked like the arc was consistent in a way that it hasn't always been as he's tinkering with that shot. Had some nice drives. Like I think like had a really nice cut as well. That we were on the phone and I was like, oh my god, like he did the thing where it's like if he cuts, like this just becomes easier. But I also just like watch him defend Anthony Edwards, and it's like, oh yeah, this guy's like kind of outrageous on the defensive end because like he does not get the full credit. Like there was a play where he got back cut by Edwards and like it opened up a 3, and like you could see him taking blame for it in real time. Like he wasn't like impeccable on that end of like it wasn't like a just full stop like shut up performance. But like Anthony Edwards is one of the league's up and coming stars. He's been awesome this year. Okoro defended him with such strength and calmness that it's like kind of wild to me that it wasn't like obviously like a total shut off the water night, but Edwards was 6 of 17 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3, 13 points, only had 2 assists, had 3 turnovers. I think a lot of the credit to that goes to Isaac Okoro being someone who is like up in the grill of Edwards and can handle his strength, they can handle his athleticism, and like yes, like he's probably better defending 1s and 2s, and Edwards is a bigger 2, but like Okoro, man, like just both ends of the floor. Like I think if you got that Okoro or like something resembling that Okoro, or maybe he's not taking 10 shots a game, and maybe he's like 4 of 10 on some nights, or 5 of 10, or like 4 of 9 or whatever, and he gets that 1-3, he gets like 2 threes on some nights. Like I almost think like that's enough for me. Like to think this guy can positively contribute. It obviously has gone up and down. It is all over the place, but like that version of Okoro that we saw last night is just is very good.
Yeah, no, I think that's right too. Cause like also when he's going to be efficient offensively like that, you can kind of like live, like you say, yeah, the play that he got back cut. It's like, all right, well, yeah, that stinks. But like when he's going to go out there and score 4 points, like you hope he like doesn't let up a basket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. But it's like if he's going to give you 16 or that reverse layup, I believe it was in the third quarter he had where he just attacked.
Yeah.
And like he seemed to have a plan too, which sometimes I feel like when he goes to the rim, he doesn't always like. I just feel like it's kind of like, all right, I just see like a little spot and I'm just going to just hope that this works out well. But last night, yeah, he just looked really calm on offense. So I think like that's kind of, like you said, if you get that kind of night from him, like maybe even a little bit less on offense, recognizing he's probably not going to be 7 of 10 every night. A lot to like about that version that he was last night for sure.
If you just look at, we'll talk about Markkanen in the next segment, but if you were going to add, I just want to ask you this as a hypothetical. If you were going to be able to add a skill set into the Cavs wing rotation as it exists, which like, let's just say it includes Markkanen to some degree. It is a three big lineup with him and Mobley and Allen, but he kind of plays as like a spacing wing. Okoro and Jetty Osman. If you could add like a skill set or like let's say like two skill sets that are maybe like the guy is like a B or a B minus in like two different areas, like kind of just like a solid average-ish NBA wing. Are there two skills that you feel like this winger rotation could most need that could perhaps use in a meaningful way?
I would think you'd probably want, just given that I still don't really trust Okoro shot, and like when you look at like
Yeah, well, nor should you. Like,
yeah,
I'm like the Isaac Okoro like campaign manager, but like he is not. The shot is not something that I would say is like you can take that to the bank and get like a good return on your investment.
yeah. So right, and then when you look at like Lamar Stevens, who again, like can come out and compete on defense, but streaky. A couple nights ago, he did have two big threes, but so I would think the answer is probably just like an average 3-point shooter, like 35%.
About like average, yeah.
Yeah, like somebody that could do that, like, but has a proven track record of a couple seasons of doing it. Because as much as I have been impressed with what Osman has done this year, like, I mean, I did watch last season, so you're like, kind of maybe he kind of falls into a slump for like 2 weeks, and then it's like, you could use another shooter, I guess, is what I'd say. So that would probably be my answer for sure. And then I don't want to say anything on defense because, like, as long as the big men are healthy back there, you can probably get away with some like somewhat leaky perimeter coverage, like Okoro locks down. So, but maybe there, I would say that just to maybe take some burden off Okoro, like some more defense from a wing too. I would think somebody who's better than Osman, which wouldn't take much, but isn't necessarily Okoro. That way he doesn't always have to maybe guard the best perimeter player for the opposing team, and can allow him to maybe focus on offense a little bit more, because we've talked before about how that defensive effort that he has to give saps you to the point that you can't really fault the guy if he's not as engaged on offense, because he just was running around the floor for a minute trying to stay with somebody. So those are my answers. How about you?
I would just say I think some ball handling and some shot, like some of that kind of stuff, and shooting would be the two, with like a guy who at least has a pulse on defense. Because I don't think JB is going to embrace a player that like loafs on defense. I don't think that is like in what he wants to do. I don't feel like part of the reason Jetty was benched and sent to purgatory last year was the fact that like he just was not giving two SHITs on defense. So like I don't like trust like JB to like want to massage in a guy who clearly is like a major plus on the offensive end and juices that side of the ball, but like is just like not giving a single care on that side of the ball. All right, after the break, we'll talk about Lauri Markkanen, who was awesome against the Timberwolves. But first, got to tell everyone about TrueBill. TrueBill is the new app that is helping you identify and stop paying for subscriptions that you don't need, want, or simply forget about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. All you have to do is link your accounts, and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. TrueBill has over 2 million users and has helped them save over $100 million. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now. That is truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands of dollars a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Okay. Kevin, Lauri Markkanen had a couple poster dunks in this game. Was 22 minutes, 7 of 8 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 19 points. What stood out?
I think the dunks were nice. And he's had a couple in the last couple games. There's been some really nice cuts that they've found him on. But I think for me, it was I'm just gonna say the 3-point shooting, because again, that was one of the reasons that they brought him in, and we were talking about it before, like with like Larry Nance Jr. and like kind of what a bummer it is that he's not on the team. But like, Markkanen just being able to have like a guy who can just 4 or 5, he shoots 4 or 5 from 3, and you don't really even think like, oh, that was a fluke. Like, you're just like, he had a good night. Like, to have that player in the lineup and just on the team after the lack of shooting that the Cavs have had since LeBron's been gone, like it's awesome to have that. And I think it really adds a dimension to the offense that, like last year, I like over and over again, it's just like, please just somebody shoot more threes. Like, I don't know who it is. And I love that. I mean, a couple nights ago against Washington, Lauri took 12 threes.
Like that is what he's here to do,
exactly.
right? Like that is what he's like you could, I think, argue in a vacuum. And I think I would probably argue this, that I would look at this and say, okay, Larry Nance Jr., like in a vacuum, I would say is a better basketball player than Lauri Markkanen. I believe that. Better defender for sure, more versatile, can like as much like despite being smaller and like I think even a little skinnier than Markkanen, like is more comfortable playing small ball five. But what Markkanen does with this Cavs team, I think, is just come in and help them shoot threes, which they desperately don't just need. I don't know if this is a guy that is on the team in like 3 years or whatever, but like last year, the Cavs were one of the least frequent 3-point shooting teams in the league. Kevin, this year, they are 17th in overall. They're 11th in corner threes, 15th in non-corner threes. So like right at the halfway mark in non-corner threes. This is a team that I don't think like loves necessarily like doing it, but they're like they're about league average in that category for like, which is kind of wild. They are at least willing to shoot them at a clip that is like in line with some modern basketball. Like it is not like down there with like the Spurs or the Bulls or the Suns who are like not taking, very many at all. Like they're at least getting some. And I think for a team that like needs easy offense, that this isn't a good offense. This is kind of like a below average offense that is really relying on Darius Garland to do stuff that like the Garland Allen stuff pops so much, I think in part because it is the easiest offense they have. And they just sometimes just will go to it just, I think, when they kind of just need 2 points or want to try to at least get an easy look. Like Markkanen just being willing to shoot threes, and Osman has this kind of same energy as well, I think is just needed. I also just like that as we've seen him come back from COVID, seeing him get more comfortable. I loved last night that they ran him off 2 staggered screens and like first had him flash to maybe get the ball at the top of the key, but also just have him like curl off of that on a cut and get to the rim. And like, you're not having him post, right? You're not going to throw Lauri Markkanen post touches. At least you shouldn't. That's never what he's been good at. It wasn't what he's good at in Chicago. But if you get him like rolling and curling like that, and especially if he's being defended by a wing, like he was defended by Taurean Prince, who's like a solid NBA player, can play some small ball 4, but is not big. Markkanen just like kind of was bigger than him on this curl, and like Darius Garland just fed him. Like that is not like complicated. It is not like fun and modern and sleek and like every kind of buzzword you want to use to describe modern offense. But it was like kind of maximizing what they kind of have. And like, all right, we're going to have our 2 7-footers screen, have our third 7-footer come off a curl and like try to dunk. Like it's simple, but the process I kind of understand in a way in terms of maximizing what Markkanen is in that role.
Yeah. No, so he's been back for 10 games since COVID. He has 4 20-point games. Last night's 19-point performance. He's only had 2 of those 10 games. He's been in single digits scoring. One of which was against Utah, which would have been nice to have a big performance from him that night. But like, I mean, he really is like, yeah, he's a big part of the offense, which like maybe you don't feel so great about saying that because like it maybe speaks to some of the areas that they're lacking, but he's really become a big part of the offense. And that was not necessarily what I expected when they traded for him, but happy to see how he's been playing lately. It really does add both the shooting and, like you said, and the ability to run kind of creative plays like that with him, and just kind of like recognizing like pretty athletic guy for a 7-footer, pretty skilled player for 7 feet. Like, let's kind of use that a little bit and make the 6'7" Prince try and stop him. Like, you're going to be able to probably get a pass into him, like if a smaller guy is guarding him. So, yeah, just really impressed with how he's played. I hope we don't lose him to the Finnish military. So,
do you expect this out of him?
Honestly, No, I
Okay.
didn't really know what to expect. I mean, like, I thought when they traded for him, it was like they clearly didn't just trade for him by accident. Like, they made a conscientious decision to do it. So you kind of wanted to say, like, all right, like, we'll see what they had in mind. But I think what I didn't necessarily expect was like some of the dunks that you talked about. Like the one he had last night was wow. I mean, it was awesome. And like I didn't really expect that. Like I expected he would come and just like shoot threes, but I think he's shown to be a lot more like skilled with the ball than I really thought. You know what I mean? Just being able to like or not with the ball on
Yeah.
offense. Like he's more skilled without like having to like dribble a bunch. You know what I mean? He can score in more ways than I thought. I thought he was literally just going to shoot like 6 threes a night and then call it a day. But that's not. He's shown a little bit more ability than that. So I'm incredibly impressed with him.
Yeah, this is not what he was in Chicago, and like again, like he's been inconsistent. You know, the 3-point shot like is just kind of coming to life in a way that it wasn't earlier in the year, and that like I wonder if that was role adjustment and things like that, just in or just like maybe just a little bit of an inconsistent shooter, slow starter, whatever. Like I just kind of think that is this is kind of where you needed him to get to. I'm gonna pull this up real. I'm gonna pull something up real quick because I want to know what you think of this particular nickname that a friend of the program, Jordan Zerm, put out in the world last night. And if you're on YouTube, this is the benefits of YouTube. You can see this if you're watching on YouTube. What do you think of Lauri Markkanen?
I it's a good one. I think it was Justin who tweeted.
Here, it's unbelievable that like Evan's not even here and Justin Rowan's getting free plugs. Like this is honestly like, and you just said it like it's like him on a first name basis. Unbelievable stuff for Justin Rowan. What a brand he has.
One of the most prominent members of Cavs Twitter, but I think he called him Lauri Bird.
Okay, that's a little much, but that's also Justin.
I know. I don't know. But again, I like Lauri Markkanen. I like it. I need to see a couple more dunks maybe from him, and then I'm willing to roll with it. But no, he's been really impressive, like you said. The slow start, and I remember JB had said early in the season like that he wasn't worried about the 3-point shot because he's just in a much different defensive role than like he's ever played before. Like we expect him to get like sort of his bearings on offense after some time. And then of course he went out with COVID, which kind of stinks. But yeah, I'm really, really, really impressed with him.
Yeah, he's been better than I think I could have expected. I'm curious to see how it continues to go. All right, after the break, we'll talk. We'll get any final takeaways from Cavs Wolves, and then turn our attention to Cavs Kings Saturday night in Cleveland, Ohio. But first, got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Look, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. There's so many great flavors: raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, double chocolate, cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie. They have eggnog ones right now, which sounds kind of awesome. Kevin, are you an eggnog fan? If the answer is no, just don't answer.
Yes, but in small doses. Like give me like a little glass and then I'm fine. But like I don't want no like pint. I don't want a pint of eggnog, but
that's fair. Look, if you need a stocking stuffer for someone out there looking to get some gains, looking to have a little healthy sweet treat, like tell Santa to throw some Built Bars in their stockings. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. Look, and also try dipping your Built Bar into a piping cup of hot cocoa. I mean, that sounds kind of awesome. Right now, go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 50% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15 for 50% off your order at Built.com. When they're in stock, get the stock up on that cookie dough chunk. I promise you that is the flavor to go to. Also, got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline, the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. They have you covered all season long, so more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march towards the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball to football to NHL, boxing, and UFC. I mean, Poirier and Oliveira is on Saturday night. You might want to throw some scratch on that. You can also play your favorite Vegas casino games, so don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Remember, that's BetOnline where the game starts. Use that promo code Locked On for that sign-up bonus. Kevin, any final thoughts from Cavs Wolves? Do you have Darius Garland thoughts? Do you have Kevin Love thoughts? Like, do you have, Taco Fall thoughts? Where any final things you want to get off your chest?
I guess I would just say, like, you kind of mentioned it, right? I forgot to mention it earlier when we talked about just like the surprise and how much fun you're enjoying it. It's just really nice to see the Cavs like take care of business against a team that like they should beat, and like it kind of kind of a similar situation tonight, with the game against the Kings, where it was just fun to be like, all right, the Cavs should win this game. And then, they did. And yeah, okay, well, Rubio wasn't like great shooting 2 of 9. Like, it didn't matter. Like, it's really nice. The team sort of getting to a point where you can sort of have these nights where maybe somebody is a little bit off. Like Garland was awesome. Without needing to score 30. You know what I mean? It was just an all around enjoyable game because different guys were stepping up, but there was never a doubt that like they should win this game, and they did.
The Garland offhand 3 pass to Markkanen for like the left-handed like whip pass across the court to Lauri Markkanen was like, that's the stuff. That's just the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he's quite good. And like, I think a guy having an impact on a game like that, to do that on a night where like his shot and stuff isn't like necessarily coming in the way it is, like, I think Garland's just a star, man. Like obviously Evan Mobley is like we haven't talked about is the foundation in so many ways. And he was again really good last night. And Jared Allen's been awesome this year. Darius Garland is, to me, like, if there's the pecking order is Mobley, Darius Garland's number 2. And this is the kind of year they were waiting for to have out of Vanderbilt. Speaking of teams the Cavs should probably beat if they're going to continue on what they're doing, Cavs Kings Saturday night. Cavs are, I believe, 5.5 point favorites. What's up here? 6.5 point favorites at home. Excuse me. One of the first times they have been favorites this season. They were 1 point favorites last time. This is I would have to check this, but this is, I believe, the first time they've been back-to-back favorites from a betting perspective in a game all year, which just is kind of wild. Kevin, anything in particular interests you about Cavs Kings? What stands out?
Yeah, well, just I know I've shared this with you, but the Cavs are 25-2 against the spread now, best in the NBA, which is, I don't even bet, and I just love that stat. Like, I mean, it's really impressive. So yeah, it's different for them to be favored for a change. But so I think what stands out for me tonight is it should be an interesting matchup because the Kings, like, are still kind of the Kings, not that good on defense, but like offensively, they can score the ball. So I think it'll be a good test for the Cavs, even though it is a game where I'm like thinking that they should win it. I think it should be a good test just to see how the defense works. Like, how does Okoro handle Fox? Like things of that nature. And then I guess the other thing to call out is that the Kings are going to be missing Rashawn Holmes. Coming back. Bowling Green Falcon won't be playing tonight, but he's kind of big for them in the middle. And so it'll just be interesting to see how the Cavs attack him. And, if they look to get Allen some looks earlier, like they did a couple games ago, or like early on, I think Allen had I think that was the game where he had like 12 in the first quarter or something.
Yeah.
He was just getting touches in the post really early. I think that maybe strategy tonight would probably be prudent given that Holmes isn't going to be out there. And just, I mean, they got killed. The Kings did points in the paint. I think like the Hornets had over like 60 points in the paint a couple nights ago. So it's ripe for the Cavs to attack there. So I'd like to see them do that early on. But yeah, that's going to be really what I'm watching. Just how the Cavs handle the Kings offense, and then if they can take advantage of Holmes being out.
Yeah, the Cavs being in this position where I think they could perhaps just pick up another win against a team that they should beat is just a position I did not expect. Again, like I've said this a lot. The fact that the Cavs could like win this game, be 4 games over 500, like 28 games into the season, which is not an insignificant amount, like is crazy to me because I kind of looked at the schedule and thought, oh, they're going to get their butts kicked a bunch like early in the year. It's a really hard schedule. This is like one of the first like quote unquote easy games that they have as we go along here. Like the Cavs just perhaps getting that as a thing that they can then take advantage of is it is just like it speaks to how well the season has gone for them, right? The fact that they like are at home, they're not into like they're favorites over the Kings, have a chance to win this game, pad another win on the record, and just continue on as they have Miami on Monday and then Houston next Wednesday, and just be in the spot to like potentially just pick up games and help their playoff standing status is just like not a reality expected for them. It is just one of those worlds that this is not the tone of like if you would have told me before the year like that this is what a Cavs Kings game in December, like the tone of me talking about it and thinking about it would be like, I just don't know if I would have believed you. Like I on this I infamously, I guess, or like not infamously because like who cares, but like on this pod, I with Ben Axelrod and Evan Dammer, we did over unders. I took the Cavs under because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a growth year, and like they would be pretty surprising at this point. Like they could be at 16 wins. That's like 10 and a half away from like they win 11 more games out of the rest of the year, which would be like a very bad winning percentage against against a much easier schedule than they've had. Like that would be like surprising if they didn't like clear the over, and this Cavs team just kind of good. I from a Kings perspective, I would like to see just kind of Darren Fox fascinates me. He's not been, maybe perhaps what they kind of hope this year. I saw David Mitchell. Some really quite liked him, like Tyrese Halliburton. Kevin, I'll end on this. If you could, the trading for either of them is very complicated because salaries are weird and like it's not like a particularly feasible way to get either player without trading like someone who's already in a rotation and stuff. But if you could add one to the team, would you add Harrison Barnes or Buddy Hield?
I think I would choose Barnes.
I agree.
I mean, I like Buddy, but I think Barnes is like 18 a night this year, maybe 17, high 17s or something. Like he's kind of right around there. He's, I think he's been pretty consistent from everything that I've seen. And, I like him. I think, like I said earlier, like I wanted the Cavs, like if I had to add like somebody who could just be like add some 3-point shooting from the wing and like being able to just like match up on defense and being like, not like a sinkhole, he kind of fits those bills. And Buddy, I think, is a little bit more inconsistent than I would want. Cause like the Cavs have been shockingly, when Mobley's been in the lineup, like they've been pretty consistent. Like they haven't really gotten blown out of any games this year. Like, so I think that's like Barnes is a little bit more steady and he kind of checks those boxes. So yeah, it'll be nice to watch him play. I think he's a good player. So if they could get him, like you said, it's complicated, but he certainly would look good in a Cavs uniform, I think.
Yeah, it's complicated. Who would have thought that hero of the 2016 finals, Harrison Barnes, would be here, perhaps like as a piece to reinforce the Cavs playoff run or whatever. But that's going to be it for this episode of Locked On Cavs. Find Kevin on Twitter at Kevin_Stank. There is a certain publication he works for that you can go read a really good story he wrote about e-bikes and the Build Back Better Act and your ability to get a tax credit if you buy an e-bike. Kevin has pilled me on transit and e-bikes. So those references that have slipped through in the show, it's because of him. And yes, they annoy Queen of the Pod, Leanne Manning, very much when we talk about transit and row homes and urban design. She's in the other room right now, just shaking her fist, angry about it. But we'll be back. Evan, I'll be back on Monday talking about Cavs Kings, looking ahead to Cavs Heat and any other things that pop up. Dylan Windler was on assignment again in the G League, so perhaps we'll give you a Dylan Windler update on that as well. But if you're looking for a great second listen today, after you finish making Locked On Cavs your first listen, go check out Locked On Bets with gambling expert Lee Sterling and host your boy Q for all of the latest betting odds and tips around the world. And I might suggest Locked On Browns with Jeff Lloyd as well, because Browns Ravens on Sunday is one of perhaps the biggest games of the Browns season. Playoff hopes on the line. You might want to check out Jeff's show if you haven't been catching that already. But until next time, it's been Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris. That's Kevin. Have a good one.